I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. Ooh. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, keep winning, but you only go.
What's going on, guys? Jake here, back on our video, and today I'm going to be doing another mock draft this week. In this mock draft, I think I'm going to have the quarterbacks going early, and I'm going to kind of tinker around and try to change things up because the last couple of weeks I've been doing kind of the same picks over and over again. So I'm going to kind of try to change the picks around. Some of them are going to stay the same because, it's not going to change week by week with some teams, but I'm going to try to tinker around with some other options with some other teams could possibly take. But before we get into it, please make sure to like the video. Comment down below any other future drafts that you would want me to do in mocks. I was kind of thinking about what if running backs go early, multiple running backs, maybe they go in the first round since it's such a stacked class. So comment any ideas down below and make sure to subscribe to the channel for future NFL content that I'm going to be putting out, whether it's free agency, the combine's coming up, pro days, and NFL draft stuff that's going to be coming around week to week with weekly mock drafts. So make sure to subscribe to keep track of my channel with the stuff that I'm going to be posting about the NFL offseason. But in here, I'm definitely going to be doing quarterbacks early. So the Tennessee Titans, I think that they're going to go Cam Ward. Cam Ward is obviously the more toolsy guy. He's the more gifted, talented guy that's going to make more plays than Shador Sanders. I think that he has the bigger arm. He's more accurate. He creates more plays. He stays calm under pressure a lot of the times, so that's gonna keep him in track for a lot of this. Shador kind of creates his own pressures, and I don't think he's as talented as Cam Ward, in my opinion. And if you're taking a quarterback at one, Cam Ward is more the hit or miss type guy. That's gonna be the boomer bust. So you might as well take the shot on the home run instead of the double that Shador Sanders is gonna be. So you might as well take the shot on the QB while you have it, and take your chance at Cam Ward. There's been a lot of talks of them taking somebody like a Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter here at number one and take maybe doing another year of Will Levis. And then next year, there's more of a stacked quarterback class with Arch Manning and a couple different guys coming out. So maybe they wait until then. But if you're at number one, there's no telling where you're going to be next year. So you may not be in a position. You might as well take them while you have the chance. Number two, this is one that's actually going to stay the same that I've been doing. Abdul Carter. Miles Garrett wants out. He's going to be traded. The Browns could end up getting another first round pick in this class for the later rounds, depending on where they trade Miles Garrett to. So teams probably going to get up multiple firsts for Miles Garrett. So they're probably going to end up getting another first round pick as well. So maybe that could be a Jackson Dart later in the first round. Who knows? But I think that they're going to try to get Miles Garrett's replacement here. Go edge rusher for Abdul Carter. He definitely, this was his first season as a pure edge rusher. He was playing more of the linebacker hybrid. He's very similar to Micah Parsons from Dallas. So that's pretty much what the Cowboys are getting, trying to replace their Miles Garrett, who they're going to try to trade away. The New York Giants, with the quarterbacks going early, Brian Dable and Joe Shane, their GM, are on the hot seat. So they're going to try to get their quarterback and show some improvement in their final year. If they do not produce this year and they come out and have the same similar season that they had this year, both the GM and the head coach are going to get fired for the Giants. So they're going to try to take their quarterback here, whether it's Cam Ward or Shador Sanders, that's on the board to try to save their jobs. So if they can come out and show some development and actually win a couple games with a young rookie quarterback, then maybe they'll give reason for John Mara, the owner, to keep them around for another year. Number four, New England Patriots. They would go Travis Hunter. This is probably going to be the top four, no matter what it is. It'd probably be in different order, but this is going to be the top four. Travis Hunter, definitely. This is the Patriots' dream scenario. The Patriots either want Abdul Carter or Hunter, so they're desperately hoping that two quarterbacks go in the top three. Because the worst case scenario for the Patriots is if Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are off the board. So Vrabel's trying to get just more talent on this Patriots team. I think in free agency they're going to try to address wide receiver. I don't know if T Higgins is going to be there because they're talking about the Bengals playing the franchise tag him again. So who knows what's going to happen there. But I think that they're going to look to go maybe an Amari Cooper, somebody to add more weapons for Drake May. And I think that they're also going to try to beef up the offense line in free agency. So this just leaves them to go best player available and add more talent to that team. Number five, I've been going Will Johnson or Tedero McMillan with this a lot for Liam Cohen, but a lot of ESPN insiders and other draft analysis have been going Mason Graham. So for this one, I am going to go Mason Graham. It makes the most sense. Graham is seen as one of the best players in this draft. A lot of them have him ranked as the number three player behind Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter in the draft. And if he falls you on the board, you pretty much just take it and take the value. The Jaguars have one of the better edge duos in the league. They have Trayvon Walker, who's starting to develop and show a little bit of promise, and they have Josh Allen on the other side. But I believe they have like the 31st ranked interior defensive line in the NFL. So they're gonna try to buff it up here with a great run stopper and great just disruptor in general with the with Mason Graham from Michigan, and hopefully add to their defensive line. I would not be shocked though if they go somewhere like a Tedder McMillan for Liam Cohen, who's an offensive guy, or they try to get protection for Trevor Lawrence because Liam Cohen, I think Tyrone Millen's very similar to Mike Evans. He's 6'5", great speed, great hands, huge arm length that's going to be able to go up and get balls. So he could look to go another weapon to go across from Brian Thomas and pair those two up. But here in this draft, I'm going to have him going Mason Graham. The Raiders at 6 are an interesting one. They're definitely hoping for a quarterback to fall, or, if a quarterback doesn't get to them, they're just going to go talent. To be honest with you, the Raiders are one of the least talented teams in the NFL. If you look at their depth chart, their roster is not talented whatsoever. They have one of the worst rosters in the league, and I think that they're going to set up the position, and Tom Brady's making a lot of calls to whatever quarterback they're going to get either in free agency to be a bridge quarterback or next year. They're going to try to set them up to be able to have the best weapons possible to come in as a rookie after next year's draft. So I think that they're going to go with Tedero McMillan. Their number one receiver right now is Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is great. He's not a number one receiver. He might be a very high end number two and be one of the better number two wide receivers in the NFL, but he's not a number one guy. So you go out and get Tedero McMillan, just add talent to that roster no matter where you go. They could have won a Will Johnson here at corner, somebody like that. But I think Tedero McMillan would give their future quarterback, whoever they go with next year, to have a lot of weapons, or if they go with the Jackson Dart in second round or trade up in the late first. The New York Jets here, the Jets' number one option probably is Mason Graham. They want Mason Graham to fall here, and I think that's the perfect situation. Obviously, here Mason Graham's off the board, so you're looking at several different options. A lot of people have corner here with Will Johnson. I don't know if Aaron Glenn goes corner. Now they did take somebody like a Brian Branch, so I think a sleeper pick here for the Jets would be a Malachi Starks. But I think I think a Malachi Starks pick would just be too high for safety in my opinion. So I do think that they would go edge here. Mike Green could be a good option. I love Mike Green, but I think the person that Aaron Glenn is going to fall in love with is the tools of Michael Williams. He didn't have any crazy dominant games last year, and I'm just going to change it up from what we usually do with the Jets. And I think Aaron Glenn's going to see those raw talent that Michael Williams has, like a Trayvon Walker, and feel like that he can develop him into a dominant edge rusher. I know they still have Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald on the other side. Will McDonald had one of the better edge rushing seasons last year, so he's still going to be there. But Jermaine Johnson tore his Achilles last year, so who knows if he's going to be ready at the beginning of the season. And in that system in Detroit, you want the most edge rushers and best defense possible is what Aaron Glenn ended up developing. And especially with all the injuries that Aaron Glenn dealt with last year in Detroit, he's going to want to have a lot of depth to be able to step in that kind of shot him in the foot later in the year last year in Detroit. So the Carolina Panthers, I could see them going with weapons to try to surround Bryce Young. Maybe they go with offensive line, but they have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and Will Johnson falls into your lap. You go out and you get your number one corner to go across from J.C. Horn if J.C. Horn can ever stay healthy. But this is a great point to add just talent to that defense. That defense that was one of the worst in the NFL. They give Bryce Young a little bit of help. Bryce Young did all he could at the end of the year, especially with those overtime games, with their defense just couldn't hold up. The New Orleans Saints, they could go several directions. I think a Malachi Starks could be good here to go in with or Tyrann Mathieu, not Trayvon, Tyrann Mathieu. They could also go defense line with an edge piece to kind of bolster up that defense. They do have Chris Olave, so maybe if Tedero McMillan falls here, they could combo that together. Kamara's kind of getting old, but I think Trevor Penning didn't do very well last year. They do have Talisa Fuaga on the other side that had a decent year and he had a pretty good rookie year. But I think that they're going to want to go tackle And I think here they would go Kelvin Banks. He's the number one tackle on my board. They could easily go Will Campbell, but both these guys have played guard, so they have guard capability if you do want to keep Trevor Penning around for another year. But I think that they're going to look to start moving on because he has been kind of average. So I think they're going to try to bolster up the offensive line to help out whoever their next quarterback's going to be after Derek Carr because I think that they're going to be moving on here soon. And Kellen Moore in Philadelphia just won a Super Bowl with one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. So I think that he's want to try to simulate that what he had in Philadelphia. So, they're just gonna try to bolster it up to be able to get a better run game for Kamara and run Kellen Moore's offense more effectively. The Chicago Bears are an interesting one. There's several pieces. They go O-line like a Will Campbell, other places like that. I do think that they're going to try to go free agency to address the interior offensive line because their tackles are set. They got Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones. The real issue is their interior, and I think that they're really going to try to throw a lot of money at Trey Smith. So maybe they go out and get Trey Smith. Tevin Jenkins is a free agent. So after they sign Trey Smith, maybe they go out and get somebody like a Kevin Zeitler for cheaper, or maybe a Ryan Kelly to come in from the Colts to play center. And I think that they really address that in free agency. And then they go Ashton Genty. You have Ben Johnson. He had the best running back duo last year, a dominant offensive line. So you go out and you spend a lot of money in free agency to address the offensive line. And then you get a generational running back. He's one of the best running back prospects we've seen in a couple of years in the draft. So Ben Johnson's going to want to kind of get his Jahmyr Gibbs type person to be able to step in and run that Chicago offense that he's going to have with Caleb Williams. The 49ers, they're going to go trenches. They're either going to go offensive line or defensive line. And I think Trent Williams is getting up there in age. They don't really want to pay him too much anymore. So I think that there definitely would go somebody like a Will Campbell here. Kelvin Banks is off the board. So you get Will Campbell. If Trent Williams is healthy, Will Campbell can slot in a guard and play guard for a year or two while Trent Williams is getting older, and then once Trent Williams retires, he moves out to tackle. Or Trent Williams comes out and he ends up being hurt still and he can't go. Then Will Campbell comes in and replaces him there at tackle right away and plays tackle as a rookie there for the 49ers and adds to their trenches. So he's stepping in to kind of be the Trent Williams replacement. The Dallas Cowboys, Genty's off the board. I don't necessarily think that they're going to go receiver. They may try to, deal with that in free agency, maybe get another piece in free agency. I usually have Walter Nolan here as my favorite spot to beef up that defensive line, but I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go Mike Green. Mike Green is probably one of my favorite prospects in this class. I have him going usually much higher than what other people do. And he had a huge Senior Bowl week. He led college football in sacks and tackles for losses last year. And at the Senior Bowl a couple weeks ago, he was dominant and pretty much dominated everybody and rose his stock. I think he's somebody that could sneakily go in the top 10 to somebody like the Jets, somebody like who's there, somebody like the Raiders or the Panthers. They end up falling. I think Mike Green could be a sneaky pick to go a lot higher than what people have him. And I just kind of want to switch it up from the Walter Nolan pick that I usually have the Cowboys going. The Miami Dolphins, I'm going to keep this similar to what I've been doing the last couple weeks. I'm going to go with Armand Membu. Membu could play tackle or guard. I do think he's going to be a guard in the NFL. He's kind of like that Elijah Vera Tucker from a couple of years ago, somebody that's going to play guard in the NFL. But if someone ends up getting injured or they have injuries, they could slot out the tackle for a couple games to be able to fill in. He has an amazing first step. I've done a video scouting breakdown of all the top offensive linemen in this class. So if you haven't seen those, please go on my channel. There's a playlist and watch those. And in that, Armand Membu has one of the fastest first steps off the ball. I think he's going to be a great zone scheme guy, which is what the Dolphins are. The 49ers are also that. The Dolphins are pretty much him being able to go out and reach block anybody and have that initial first step to be able to reach on the edge as a tackle at Missouri. That's something that the Dolphins are going to want, and they're going to want to try to keep Tua upright and keep him protected. Membu's going to be able to do that on the interior of that offensive line to try to keep Tua healthy. So it just makes sense for the Dolphins. Number 14, the Colts. This one just makes the most sense. I'm going to keep this one the same. I'm going to go Tyler Warren. He's the best tight end in the class. He's one of the better players in the class. I think he could go all the way up to the Jets at number 7. And it's just somebody, he's more that George Kittle type role that can block. So he can definitely block for Anthony Richardson, or he can even be his number one check down option. to be able to get the ball out quick for Anthony Richardson to kind of develop his decision making. You're pretty much giving Anthony Richardson a year or two more until you decide. And if in 2 years Richardson can't do it still with Tyler Warren and Jonathan Taylor and some of his other weapons, then you're moving on from him and drafting another quarterback. So you're giving Anthony Richardson the best possible opportunity to succeed. The Atlanta Falcons going here, most of the time they're looking for a defensive lineman, and I think that they're going to look for somebody to kind of step in and, just play both spots on the interior or the edge part. And I think that they could end up going with Shamir Stewart with their edge presence, somebody that could play inside and outside. One of those two. Shamir Stewart was seen as one of the best rush defenders and run stoppers in this class. His real question was his pass rushing ability. And at the Senior Bowl, he was able to come in and show that pretty much and show his crazy pass rushing ability that he can do both. And I think the Falcons are really going to like that and try to add, an edge presence to him. Maybe they skip and shock us again and go offense after they've gone the last 4 years with offense. But I really do think that they need to buff up that defensive line. Arizona Cardinals, same thing here. I think this could be a sneaky pick for a wide receiver. Somebody like a Luther Burden to go along with Marvin Harrison Jr. or a Golden here could be a sneaky pick to kind of add weapons for Kyler Murray. And you know what? I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to go wide receiver here. And I really do like the Matthew Golden thought here for Arizona. And they definitely do need interior offensive line. They definitely do need tackle, or interior offensive line. They definitely do need defensive tackle to be able to help up their interior. But I do think all they have is Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride as their weapons. And they already have a decent running game. I think Kyler Murray, they're going to try to get him more weapons and give him a couple more years to try to show off that he is a franchise quarterback officially for them before they move on from him. And I think Matthew Golden's definitely going to be a good slot here to be able to go early for him, and be that deep threat alongside Marvin Harrison. Cincinnati Bengals, I think that they need the interior of that defensive line. They have Trey Henderson. They could look to go edge. They could look to go interior. And one of the guys that I love is still on the board, Walter Nolan. I think is going to go very high. I usually have him going to the Cowboys, and he was one of the biggest Senior Bowl risers as well. He was pretty much unblockable in one-on-ones and rose his stock a whole bunch. A lot of the Ole Miss and SEC guys did that in the Senior Bowl and pretty much showed his dominance. And I think that the Bengals are going to look to buff up the interior. They had one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year, so they definitely need to add more talent, whether it's Starks or and on the interior defensive line. I think they do end up keeping T. Higgins for another year, so they're going to look to try to get a pick on that defensive line. The Seattle Seahawks here, they're looking for tackle or guard, preferably somebody on the interior to kind of help out with that interior offense line. So I'm gonna go with Tyler Booker here. It's just a better fit. I could see the tackles going, but this is a 3-year starter that's played great at guard for Alabama. So you're coming in taking him, kind of hoping that he's going to play next to Abraham Lucas to help out, or maybe even they go out and get a tackle and draft a tackle here to just replace Abraham Lucas, who has been kind of struggling a little bit this last year, and go alongside with Charles Cross on the other side. So Tyler Booker makes a lot of sense here for them. The Buccaneers, I think that they're going to look to go edge and beef up their defense and that defensive line. Their offense was very good. They could lose Chris Godwin in free agency, so maybe this is a sneaker wide receiver pick. But I'm gonna go with James Pierce. He's one of the most talented players in the class. At the beginning of last year, when everyone was doing their way too early mock drafts, he was actually projected to go number one in most mock drafts. So it makes sense here that he would be able to still go in the first round, even though he had a little bit of a disappointing year. But 2 years ago, he led college football in sacks. So you definitely see the production. You just need him to kind of be more consistent year in and year out. The Denver Broncos, I think that this could be another running back with Genty off the board. They're going to look to go and try to get more weapons for Bo Nix, whether it's running back, Javonte Williams is a free agent. It's receiver. It could be a Mecca Ibuka or a Luther Burton here. It could be a tight end and Colston Loveland. But right here, I'm going to make a shocking move just to try to change things up. I'm gonna go with Amarion Hampton. A lot of scouts are loving this guy. A lot of scouts and the reports have been that he's not very far off from Genty. The kind of consistency is obviously Genty's one, but Omarion Hampton is cutting the gap and not as far off as what a lot of people and the general people think about this. So I do think there's going to be multiple running backs taken in the first round, whether it's Hampton and Genty. There's definitely going to be a whole lot of them in the second round. I think teams are going to want to grab them while they're hot. And I just want to kind of change things up and get multiple running backs in the first round. So I'm gonna go with Amarion Hampton here, who's seen as one of the best running backs and by far the undoubted number two running back in this class. The Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, I think that they're going to keep Justin Fields for 1 year and let Russell Wilson go. And I think that they're going to try to upgrade receiver. All they got is George Pickens, pretty much. And I think George Pickens, they're going to try to either get rid of him or he's only going to be there for 1 more year. 'Cause I think Mike Tomlin's about tired of him. So I think they're going to go with a pretty crazy yak guy, and Luther Burton's going to fall here to try to add more weapons, and that they could end up going with a quarterback next year. I do think that a team in this late first round is going to take a shot on Jackson Dart, and I don't know if it's going to be a team trading up from the early second round into one of these spots where one of these teams are going to trade back, but somebody's definitely going to make the move and take Jackson Dart late in this first round. You can take my word on that. Somebody's going to take Jackson Dart in the late first round, in my opinion. And I don't know who. It could be the Steelers here. Field Yates had that. It's a little bit early. I think it's gonna be in the late 20s when somebody takes Jackson Dart, but somebody's gonna end up doing it. The Los Angeles Chargers, Jim Harbaugh is going to look to add weapons for Justin Herbert after the number one receiver is Lad McConkey and their number one tight end is Will Disley. I think that they're going to look to upgrade that here, and they're going to end up going with Colson Loveland, who's a Jim Harbaugh guy. Harbaugh recruited him when he was at Michigan, when he's the head coach, so it just makes too much sense. Loveland's more of that Brock Bowers type build. It's somebody that's going to, play out the slot and be more of a receiving threat for George Kittle. Is not going to do much blocking. So Colson Loveland definitely makes sense for the Chargers here. The Packers, I usually have them taking corner. I think this is another team that could shock some people with who they take. They definitely need interior offensive line as well help. They need edge help. So it really just depends where they're going to go. And I think they're definitely going to shock some people because a lot of people are going to be expecting them to take corner to kind of replace Jair Alexander. But looking at this, a lot of the edge players are off the board. You have Nick Scorington still here, so that could still happen. But I'm gonna take a little bit of a shocking pick. I think that they could shock some people. Gray Zabel, he was another guy that rose in the Senior Bowl. He was kind of seen as a mid second round pick, but he pretty much dominated the Senior Bowl and didn't lose a single set in one-on-ones, and he rose up a lot of people's boards. Well, most of the time, I have him going to the Vikings at 24, but I'm going to say the Packers need interior offensive line help to protect Jordan Love, and they're going to end up stealing one here from the Vikings away from them and try to take their guy pretty much. The Vikings here, they have a god awful secondary. Harrison Smith's getting old. He could retire. So I think that they're going to go with Malachi Starks. They get pretty much the best player on the board at this point. He's kind of fallen down a little bit on some boards. He's kind of in that later first round. I did a video actually with the top five guys I think could fall into the second round, and he was one of the guys that I did. So if you haven't seen that video, please go make sure to watch it. And they're pretty much just going for value to buff up their defense. With their secondary, that was one of the worst, or they could end up going with a run defense with the edge player. One of those two, but here they go, Malachi Starks. The Texans, Stephon Diggs is a free agent. Tank Dell just tore his ACL at the end of the year, so he's probably going to be out most of this next year coming up. All they have is Nico Collins. They need more weapons for CJ Stroud. So depending on what they do in free agency, if they go out and get some more weapons, but Emeka Ibuka is still on the board. So you're getting Stroud a weapon. He's a pretty crazy yak machine. Somebody that you get the ball out too quick and let him make a play and try to go and make a guy miss. So this makes the most sense for the Texans to go alongside Nico Collins. The Rams, this is a similar one as well. Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons could have been the number one tackle in this class if he stayed healthy. He ended up getting hit and going down for the rest of the year with a knee injury against Oregon 6 games in. He's very good at everything, but he's not amazing. He's not great at one thing. He's a great all-around player, but he doesn't have that amazing skill that he's like just great at. So if he can build all that together and still be consistent, he could be a great tackle in this league. and Note Bloom's a free agent for him, and they're going to look to replace him at left tackle. The Raiders here, they're looking to upgrade the offensive line. Ronnie Stanley's a free agent, so who knows if they're going to re-sign them? They definitely struggled on offensive line at the beginning of the year, and Josh Connerly's still on the board here. He's somebody that's pretty good. He's not like a dominant run blocker or anything like that, but he has great technique in the pass blocking. A lot of these offensive line guys are very similar in their rankings, and they're very similar on where they're at. Um, just based on their rankings alone. That's not pretty crazy. They're all similar in my opinion, but there's certain things that just, the need at certain points. A lot of teams are just gonna go other places like edge, since it's a very big edge class. So I think the Ravens are gonna look to try to get the Ronnie Stanley replacement and take Josh Connerly here. The Detroit Lions. I think that with the edge players on the board, Nick Scorington makes a lot of sense for him here. They're looking. I don't know if they're going to bring back Zadarius Smith or not. They were looking to get another edge piece across from Aiden Hutchinson. They could look to go guard if it's on the board, but a lot of the offensive linemen just went off with Connerly and Josh Simmons and Gray Zabel going earlier. I think Gray Zabel could be a amazing Detroit Lions. He just seems like a Detroit Lions type guy, Dan Campbell guy. So with him being off the board, I'm gonna look to go edge to kind of beef that up, that defense up that definitely struggled last year. Who knows what the Lions are gonna be next year? They lost pretty much their entire coaching staff. They keep Dan Campbell, so who knows how they're gonna be, how well coached they're gonna be. Who knows? But they're gonna look to get Aiden Hutchinson's partner on defense. The Commanders, they make a shocking run and they end up here. I think that they could end up looking to get to beef up their edge, even though a lot of the edge players are taken here. Maybe they go interior defensive line. They had one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL, but I think that they're going to look just to get, just get some weapons on defense and get more talented. And Jahdae Barron from Texas is somebody that's been rising up a lot of boards, and he's looking to go in the late first round here, as one of the corners, and he's seen as one of the top corners. Just trying to switch it up. I usually do Benjamin Morrison here a lot, so it really just depends. The Buffalo Bills, Benjamin Morrison was dealing with injury, so it really just depends on how a lot of teams see him at the combine. How's his injury going to be? But Kair Elam got bullied last year, or at the game against the Chiefs. They pretty much targeted Kamir Elam when he had to go in, so they need to upgrade their secondary a lot. And Micah Hyde just ended up retiring, so they're looking to try to get replacements in that secondary to add more talent. If Benjamin Morrison falls to you at this point, you pretty much take him. He could fall into the early second though, based on his injury and medicals. But I think that they're going to look to try to get more talented on defense. Kansas City Chiefs, they just got mollywopped by the Eagles at the end in the Super Bowl, basically based off offense line and defense line. They pretty much couldn't stop anything. They did a pretty good job of stopping the run, I will say that, but their defensive line pretty much killed them. Although with a lot of the offensive linemen, or yeah, a lot of the offensive linemen taken off the board, there's not much value here at this point. So I think that they're going to look to try to get somebody to go alongside Chris Jones. Tyleik Williams is one of the best run defenders in the NFL. I mean, in this class as a prospect. So he's going to be a great run defender for him and pretty much stopping the run to go alongside Chris Jones and kind of take away double teams away from Chris Jones. And he's just going to be a better threat in the trenches to kind of make the Kansas City Chiefs a little bit tougher. And then the Philadelphia Eagles at this point, a lot of teams falling. They have Jalen Carter in the middle. They have Jordan Davis. They definitely do need an edge rusher, a linebacker. And I think with Jahad Campbell still on the board, he's kind of seen as one of those guys that could step in and be a great fit for the Eagles to kind of help out with their linebacker situation. Kobe Dean has kind of been injured a lot, so it really just depends on how they see him. But here's a recap of my first round. I tried to change things up. I did quarterbacks a little bit early, and I tried to switch up some picks. Maybe some guys fell down the board a little bit more. Some guys were taken a little bit later. Some guys were taken over. A lot of guys that don't really see that happening. So I kind of switched it up a little bit, made it a little bit different. Next week, I'm thinking about doing a little bit different mock drafts too, some different scenarios. So if you guys have any, opinions or thoughts, please put it down in the comments below. But make sure to like the video, comment down below anything you agreed or disagreed with, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be putting out future NFL content and future mock drafts. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, feel like John Morant. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't drop the ball. Now I never fumble. I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Morant. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't